Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name's Ethan McDowell, and I am joined, as I am every week, by Noah Fleischman. It's time to talk some more baseball, folks. The last time we came to your YouTube feeds, we were talking about NC State's upcoming run through the ACC tournament. Well, that run didn't go as planned. We'll recap it a little bit, discuss what went wrong for the Pack there, but then we're going to dive into the Raleigh Regional. NC State did, in fact, get one of the top 16 seeds, so they are hosting this week, and it's going to be exciting. They get a group with number 2 seed South Carolina, number 3 seed James Madison, and number 4 seed Bryant. They will take on Bryant, the American East champions, in on Friday at 7 p.m. And before we dive into that matchup, Noah, just a quick housekeeping note. We're both writers for the Wolfpacker.com. That's NC State's site on the On3 network, the fastest growing college football, basketball. Hey, we're doing our best to make baseball too and recruiting website out there. So go check it out. It's the Wolfpacker.com. Right now, we got a special running. It's only $1 to join for your first month. So it doesn't get cheaper than that. You can go check out our content, see if it's worth your while. I think it is. I think it's going to be especially worth it as we dive into recruiting season here coming up. It's going to be a thrilling time to be on the Wolfpacker.com. So go check it out and take advantage of that $1 for 1 month deal. All right, Noah, you were boots on the ground in Charlotte last week covering NC State's ACC tournament appearance. And you were at the selection show earlier this week, and you're going to be at the Raleigh Regional. You have been in the thick of it with the baseball team this year, covering them very closely. I feel like we've kind of established a tradition of I just want to get a vibe check from you going into this week. How are the vibes around NC State's baseball program coming off of that early exit from the ACC tournament and going into the NCAA tournament?
Vibes are high, and they're high not only, they're coming off a 1-1 trip to Charlotte, did not make the weekend. They wanted to make the weekend, obviously, but they're high because of what they did at the end of the regular season, winning 5 ranked series, sweeping, Wake Forest to end the year. Pretty big high note, which basically earned them a regional spot to host. That's the 10 seed. They were close to an 8 seed, which would have gotten them, home for a super if they got that far. Ellie David pointed it out, the 10 seed points, like they were borderline. And I think if they'd made a little bit more of a run in ACC tournament, they could have gotten it. Florida State got that last spot in the 8th spot. They made the championship game and lost to Duke. So it's cool to see, and they're happy, right? They get to host, they get to play in front of the home crowd this weekend, and it's the first time they're hosting since 2018. So it's been a few years. They're excited, and they're ready to go.
It's I mean, we talked about it last week, how the winding road to get to this point, right? Like the preseason number 12 team, and they end up as the number 10 national seed. So they exceeded expectations despite all the injuries, despite all the early season adversity, and now Bryant stands in their way in the Raleigh Regional. So let's talk about the Bulldogs, the automatic qualifier out of the America East, the only conference championship in the region. They're 36-19 this year, 17-7 in their conference. And Noah, you wrote an in-depth scouting report over on the Wolfpacker.com. So give us a breakdown. What's Bryant about? What do Wolfpack fans need to know? What do they need to be worried about going into this Friday evening game?
Bryant's a team that can hit. When you look at their numbers, they're batting 279 as a team, but 81 homers, which is the 29th most of the 64 teams in the tournament. So they're on the top half of that. They can hit the ball really well. They walk a decent number, but they also strike out 455 times this year, which nationally is 212th in the country. So not great on that. So for the hitting wise, they've got 3 guys that can hit the ball extremely well. They've got a program record on homers, as I said earlier, at 81. Pitching wise, it's a little suspect there, with them and what they can do. They don't rank super high in any category. They're in the bottom, 20 teams in the tournament and basically every pitching category. So NC State has an opportunity to use the bats that they have to kind of bat around on Bryant a little bit. A 4 seed that's back in the tournament for the first time since 2016. So we'll see what they can do. Obviously, the only auto bid of the regional, which just shows that it's a team that's playing well right now. They started 1-7 this year and closed 30, 35-12 down the stretch. So they're hot, and we'll see what happens. But they're playing Friday night in front of a packed house at Doak Field. So I'd imagine NC State will be up and ready to go for that one.
Yeah, it should be a really cool environment over there. postseason baseball, I feel like is probably postseason college baseball. That is, I think it's probably one of the most underrated college sports. Like if you've ever been to a regional or a super regional or Omaha, it's a great time. It's a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see how the show NC State puts on in front of that packed house this week. And on the other side of the bracket, it'll be number 2 seed South Carolina, who kind of a down season for the Gamecocks, just based off of where their program expectations are in the SEC. But they still made it to the SEC semifinals last week, and finished the year 36-23, 13-17 in the SEC. So it's wild that 13-17, you're still the number 2 seed in the regional. That's how great the SEC is at baseball, and it's an interesting matchup. It's an interesting selection, and they're going to go against the Dukes out of the Sun Belt. James Madison, 34-23, 17-13. By the time of the first pitch of NC State's game, the Wolfpack will know their potential opponents for the next day, because JMU versus South Carolina is the early game. Noah, let's talk about both teams. We'll start with the Gamecocks because they're the higher seeded squad. But give us the rundown on them. If the Wolfpack was to face them at some point in this regional, just or when they do, how do you think they match up? How do you think what are the concerns, and how do they match up with the Gamecocks?
Yeah, they played them last year. The same time of the year they lost. They went down to Columbia and didn't get out of the regional. South Carolina's good. 13-17 is an interesting conference record. They were a bubble team going into Hoover, Alabama. Came out on top. They made it to the semifinal game. Kind of got them a 2 seed, which is interesting because for the conspiracy theorist people out there, every ACC host has a SEC 2 seed. Every SEC host has a non-Power 5 2 seed.
Wow.
Put it out there like that. So that tells you all you need to know on with the selection committee and how they did it. So SEC team was a given, and South Carolina is the one that's coming in. Obviously, some storylines there from last year. They hit the ball pretty well. 94 homers this year. They walk extremely high rate. They have the 3rd most walks in the country at 359 this past year, but they strike out a lot too, 594 times this year. So it's an interesting batting order that has power, can walk, but also strikes out a lot. Pitching wise, they don't have a clear-cut rotation. It's kind of just bullpen games as of late. Whoever's the hot arm is what they roll with. So we'll see what they do there. It's kind of hard to project who they'll see if they play them on Saturday or Sunday or Monday, maybe if it needs the if necessary game. But yeah, South Carolina is interesting, even though they do have the 13-17 record. Strength of schedule of 5, Ethan. Pretty good.
Yeah.
NC State's was 3, just putting it out there.
So if they match up, it sounds like there could be some fireworks, especially offensively. It could be
it could be a high-scoring game.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the Dukes next. JMU. For those who don't know, that Noah covered James Madison before coming here to work for the Wolfpacker, so you're familiar with the program. Give us the rundown on what you know about JMU baseball.
Yeah, their first time in the tournament since 2011, so they haven't been in a while. Good to see them. They're in the Sun Belt now, which ranked in the top 4 in the country in RPI in baseball league. So it's better than the Big Ten. It's better than the Pac-12. It's behind obviously the ACC and the SEC. So they obviously did well there, and it's just behind the Big 12 as well. But quality baseball. They went 17-13, pretty decent showing in the tournament. They were a bubble team. One of the last 4 teams in. Non-conference strength of schedule in the top 5 probably got them into the tournament. So they're coming to Raleigh won't be intimidating for them. They've played good teams all year. They opened the year at Arkansas. They played they've played a lot of conference champs throughout their non-conference schedule. Other than that, they're a well-hitting team. Pitching's been suspect as well. It's kind of the theme of this regional. Everyone can hit the ball. It's just whose pitching is going to show up. JMU with 84 homers this year. They're hitting the ball as a team. They're hitting 300, so they're hitting pretty well there too. So we'll see what happens. But pitching, not so great. They're in the bottom 10 in most categories in the NCAA tournament. With ERA, with strikeout percentage, they do have a good walk percentage at 10.4. So they don't walk a lot of batters, but they give up a lot of contact. So we'll see. South Carolina can take advantage NC State could see the Dukes at some point in an elimination game. So we'll see what happens there. But overall, it's going to be a fun regional. But I think it comes down to who pitches well, because that's what's going to have to happen this time of the year.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening to this and you want a souvenir, bring your baseball glove and go stand behind the outfield fence, because it sounds like you might have quite a few opportunities this weekend to get a ball. But Noah, I'm going to ask you to call your shot. We'll talk about NC State's game after. But after scouting both South Carolina and JMU, who do you see coming out of that region or that side of
I
the
think
bracket?
out of that winners to go into the winners bracket, it's going to be interesting on Friday afternoon. I think if anyone has an all sessions pass, go out to that game. It's going to be a fun, entertaining game to watch. South Carolina is without Gavin Costas, most likely. He had a hamate bone injury in the SEC tournament, probably done for the year. They haven't said it. They're trying to get him back, but that's an injury that's hard to come back as a hitter, within a week's time. So I think that they'll be without him, which is a blow for them. We'll see what JMU can do in their first time playing this stage. None of these players have been on the stage. Coaching staff's first time as well. It's a whole thing. I think South Carolina will come out on top and enter their winners bracket for that 6 o'clock game on Saturday. And then JMU will be playing for their life on Saturday at noon. So we'll see what happens. But I wouldn't be shocked to see this first game be a tight one. If it's a 1 or 2 run game, I wouldn't be surprised. Whether it's 1-0 or if it's 9-8, I think that this one's going to be a close one. On Friday afternoon.
Yeah, it'll be, for a, kind of passive observer of college baseball, I'm sure you see South Carolina versus JMU and you're, expecting a blowout. But it was the stats you shared about the Sun Belt are really illuminating. It's quality baseball. It's going to be cool to see, the perceived giant versus a really emerging quality conference opponent going up against them. So that'll be fun. Like you said, yeah, if you have the whole session pass, go check it out and see whoever NC State will be playing the next day. Speaking of which, the Wolfpack, based on everything we've talked about, it sounds like they should be able to take care of business against Bryant. Noah, what's your gut feeling going into that matchup Friday night?
Yeah, it should be a game that they take care of business. Bryant does have some quality pitchers. There are a lot of righties, which should benefit NC State. They're a team that struggled against left-handed pitching. Duke only threw lefties at the ACC tournament. It wasn't the fact they couldn't get contact; they were just hitting it right at people. Not a lot of hard hit balls. It was a lot of just easy plays for Duke to make. They did make some outstanding defensive plays as well. Don't get me wrong. So I think that NC State shouldn't have any problems with Bryant. I think the biggest question is who they start. Do you start Sam Highfield and just go with your weekend rotation? Or you start Ryan Marone, who pitched well against Virginia Tech. He's pitched well the whole midweeks. I think he's the kind of guy that if give him 4 or 5 quality innings, maybe. But, Elliott even might decide to just rock with what's worked all year and just roll the rotation. But if you want to save Highfield for Saturday, I wouldn't be shocked either. So it's going to come down to what they think. But if anything, I think Elliott Evans going to roll with his guns and go with, Highfield game 1, just get going. But don't be surprised if we see a Ryan Brown or Dom Fritton start a day early against Bryant to save the ace for that Saturday game, especially if you win. If you win Friday, you want to win Saturday because then you get into Sunday with you can lose once and be okay on Sunday. Yeah. So I think it's kind of a strategy play as the 1 seed now because the 2-3 game you're throwing your ace. You have to get out of that game. But the 1-4. A little more interesting. They just can't afford to lose it. I know when they hosted, maybe it was in 2018, they lost to Army in the first day and had to play their way out of the losers bracket after that. So we'll see what happens. I think they want to avoid the loser bracket after day 1. That's for sure. I mean, you could end up in after day 2, but if you start off 0-1, that's just not a good sign.
Yeah, and you mentioned it off mic earlier this week, but this is potentially the last home games of the 2023-2024 calendar school year. Man, it's wild. It's been such a successful year for NC State athletics. How many? You wrote a story on it earlier this week. How many ACC championships did they end up finishing with this year?
6, I believe. 1 behind North Carolina. 5 or 6. They're second behind the Tar Heels as a university athletic department, which is really, really good when you look at the ACC and all the teams that play in it. And And I mean, heck, NC State has a national championship this year as well from women's cross country. It's a good banner year for the athletic department. If baseball can put together a run, I think, Boo Corrigan's going to be sitting in his chair, really, really excited about what's going on in this program. And then obviously we know, we'll talk about it a little later with the momentum that can carry into football season as well. So the 2024 calendar year could be, the year of the Wolfpack if everything goes right.
And, we did say it could be the final home game of the year, but it doesn't have to be, right? No, what's the path to hosting a super regional?
Yeah, there's the 10 seed, so they're matched up with the Bulldogs of Georgia, the 7 seed. If Georgia does not get out of its regional and NC State does, they will host again. They'll be the national seed on that bracket. And whatever unseeded team comes out of Georgia's regional could, make some noise. I can pull it up, but like Georgia Tech is there. That's a team that caused NC State trouble this year. They
Yeah.
swept NC State. When you look at it, it's UNCW's down there as well, and Army. I mean, it's a quality regional in Athens, Georgia. I wouldn't be surprised to see Georgia not get out, but they should. With Charlie Condon, a guy who's got 35 homers this year, I think they should be okay. But UNCW beat NC State this year. Georgia Tech swept them, or they both swept them. And UNCW took both games in the midweek, and Georgia Tech took the 3 on the weekend. So it'll be fun. It'll be interesting if one of those two teams can upset Georgia, and if NC State takes care of business, then you could be looking at home games next week in a 3-game series against somebody, which would be must-watch baseball, especially if it's Georgia Tech. ACC team guaranteed to go to the Omaha after that. Man, I think Jim Phillips would be pretty happy.
Absolutely. All right, folks. That's it for our baseball preview. I've mentioned at the top of the show, folks, but Noah's doing a great job covering this team. It's all on the wolfpacker.com, and it is only $1 to join for your first month. So I urge you to go check it out, spend that dollar, and see what we're talking about here. It's very much worth it. Go check it out on the wolfpacker.com. All right. Before we dive into a little bit of football recruiting, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, Game Time. Game Time is a ticket buying and selling marketplace. Whether you're looking for, tickets to a concert, a comedy show, a Durham Bulls game, to get to one of Raleigh's regional matchups. It's all on there. It's all on the Game Time app, and it's great. I used them before they were a sponsor of this show, right? They just make the ticket buying process really easy. I can pull up the app on my smartphone and buy a ticket in 2 seconds. They list all the prices, cheapest to most expensive. So if you're looking to get in on a budget, that they make that very easy for you. And Noah, my favorite thing about the app by far is that you can see the exact view from your seat that you'd be purchasing. I'll hold it up for those watching on YouTube, but I'm looking at a Durham Bulls game for Saturday in a couple weeks, actually. But if you look at it right here, you can see if you bought that ticket, that's the view you'd get. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool feature. It takes a step out of the ticket buying process. It's something that I just I appreciate, and there are good prices on there. You could have gotten a ticket to that game for $15. So go check it out. Game Time on any app store or gametime.co on your web browser. And to, sweeten the deal a little bit, if you use all caps code Wolfpack, and that's all caps Wolfpack, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. So hey, that's an even sweeter deal. You can get if you buy a couple tickets to that Durham Bulls game, you can pay less than you'd pay for a hot dog and a beer at that game. So go check it out on Game Time or gametime.co on your web browser. All right, Noah, we're going to do some shout outs and closeouts to wrap up the show. Let's start with some football recruiting. I've been talking about it on the site for weeks at this point. June is the most important part of the recruiting calendar. I know that signing day is still 6 months away, but it's the official visits and the recruiting changes of momentum and events and commitments and decommitments you'll see over the next couple of months are the most important part of the recruiting cycle. And it's because of those official visits. NC State's they're scheduled to host more than 30 prospects on campus over the next month. They don't host anyone the first weekend of June usually. They do that because they like to backload the calendar, which makes a lot of sense to me. You're going to lose a few guys to those early decisions on those first weekend, but really it lets you stack those last couple weeks and get the last word with a lot of these prospects, which is huge. Because July is such a popular month to commit. You'll see kids announce in that last week of June as well. And Noah, I really like how this month is setting up for the Pack. Last year, there was a lot of concern. Now, people don't talk about it that much because it turned out to be such an awesome class, ranked top 30 nationally. But there was a lot of consternation going into June last year because we didn't know how the wide receiver board was going to shake out. The offensive line board was a bit of a mystery. And now I wrote a story about it yesterday. I think both the boards for those positions are extremely good. And, they always have, I'd say, talented wide receivers, talented defensive backs, talented running backs on campus. They usually do a really good job getting those guys on campus. I'll tell you what, Noah, the groups of offensive and defensive linemen that they're going to have visiting over the next couple months and where they stand with those recruits is really impressive. And I think that is the biggest sign that NC State's recruiting is on the up and up. I think it's really hard to recruit good offensive and defensive linemen because there's just not that many of them. So there's definitely a high demand for a 4-star defensive tackle or a 4-star center, right? So I really like how it's shaping up for the Pack. I think it's going to be a really exciting month. In the last weekend of June's official visit period, which is the 21st through the 23rd, they're going to have 12 plus recruits on campus, including multiple commits. And it's going to be an exciting time to be following Wolfpack recruiting. And, not to toot our collective, the Wolfpacker horn here, but I think we do a really good job covering it. We dropped a scoop on the site this morning about a rising junior quarterback who's going to be camping at NC State. So go check that out. Again, only $1 to get that scoop and full access to the site. But the Wolfpack's making moves here. I really like, as the program, I think, as the football program continues to ascend, I think recruiting is ascending right along with it. We've talked about it before, Noah, the way they've really divided up their personnel and recruiting departments. I think there's a clear investment from the athletic department and, of course, from the football staff in recruiting. They know how serious they need to take that at this level, especially at NC State, a school that's still a development school. It's not they're not going to overhaul the roster every year in the transfer portal, right? They want to bring kids in, develop them for 3 to 4 years, and become successful that way. That's the way they've been successful in the past. That's the way they're going to be successful this year. Now they are willing to embrace the transfer portal, which a lot of the playmakers next year will be guys that they brought in over the offseason. But it's going to be an exciting June, man. All of the spring transfers are on campus, so they're with the team working out. A few of the freshmen, summer enrollee freshmen are. I know Jonathan Paler and Elijah Groves, two of the highest ranked members, they're going to enroll in June. So they'll be on campus soon, and then shoot, man, we're in the middle of the sprint towards the season. Once we get out of June, once we get out of this recruiting period, it's going to be all football all the time from us. So get ready for that, folks. And I'm excited about it. It's going to be a fun month of recruiting coverage. So go check it out on thewolfpacker.com. Noah, before we get out of here, any shout outs, anything to close us out of the show?
Yeah, we'll just close out with, NC State. We talked about the success on national stage. Well, Nick Matthews, the golfer, he qualified for the individual championships, finished tied for 15th, 1 over par. Really good showing on a tough course in California. So good to see there. And NC State, as in that whole athletic department, not just the revenue sports, are all really doing well right now, which is a good sign for the future of the department. As one team does well, it seems like the rest kind of push toward that same goal, and it's good to see. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's a shout out as we head into a very busy and exciting weekend.
Yep, momentum is infectious. When there's positive vibes around the Pack, that bleeds into other teams. It bleeds throughout the university. It's the good vibes are permeating NC State right now for sure. It's a good time to be in that athletic department, and we're going to bring you full coverage of everything exciting that happens over the next few months. And we hope you'll keep watching and listening as the Pack continues to make moves here. So, all right, thanks for tuning in today. We will be back soon with another show. I'm not sure what we're going to do in terms of the main feed next week. That'll probably depend on how the baseball run goes this weekend, but I'm at least going to have some sort of recruiting official visit preview for a busy visit weekend, June 7th through 9th. I'm trying to figure something out, maybe with some fun guests next week. So stay tuned, and stay tuned to your YouTube and podcast feeds, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.